Hi everybody, it's Couple Indemnity. We are a film podcast about the love of cinema by two very dedicated film fans. I'm Hal, and as ever I'm joined by Izzy.
Hi everyone.
Well, we are back, and we are back with another Sherlock Holmes episode, the second one this year and the second one I've ever shown you, by the renowned Jeremy Brett Granada ITV series from the 80s. Back in March we had done The Dancing Men, and these are both very early episodes. The Dancing Men, I think, was the second ever episode, and this, I think, was the third or fourth. So, how did you feel about coming back to this?
Yeah, I thought it was, I enjoyed this one more, I think, than The Dancing Men. I think The Dancing Men took me, I don't know, I think when you're used to certain adaptations of Sherlock Holmes, sometimes when you see a new one for the first time, you go in maybe overly critical or with high expectations or whatever, or just feeling kind of defensive or protective over the ones that you love. You get used to what you know. But I really enjoyed this second episode that you showed me. I thought that kind of plot line, it was a lot more interesting.
Yeah, I think it's understandable. I mean, here we are sat in 2026, and I'm expecting you to kind of adapt and get used to a 1980s TV series. I mean, it's not, on a technical level, it's not anything particularly amazing, but I think the level of adapted screenplay and the written drama and the performances here are really worth going back and showing you.
But I also just like that this series is doing some of the more kind of unusual, unadapted stories that you don't see in any other adaptation. I think probably because these are quite short stories.
Exactly.
So the format kind of works for them.
Yeah. And The Dancing Men, I think, was one of the more famous stories, but that was condensed into a short 50-minute running time on the second episode. But this, I think, was from one of the Conan Doyle early short stories. But as TV series kept going, they went on and did some of the famous Holmes episodes that we'll come to, like The Hound of the Baskervilles and some of the famous encounters with Moriarty. But I think overall this one has a chilling or creepy atmosphere overall, doesn't it, in comparison to The Dancing Men?
I think it translates better maybe to a modern audience, actually, this one, because it's tapping into a quite like a universal theme, I feel, of fear. I think particularly for women. I felt unnerved by a lot of it. I
think unnerving might be the right word to describe the atmosphere in this. It's a very...
It's chilling,
maybe creepy, maybe going a bit too far, but I think it's unnerving, and it is chilling in the sense of feeling that you're being followed, which is like an ongoing theme throughout the whole episode and the basis for it.
I think it's the feeling of vulnerability, and as a woman, like when you're on your own in deserted places or late at night or wherever it happens to be, but like that feeling of isolation and vulnerability, I think, is what comes through in this storyline in particular. And it's that feeling that creates that kind of response in the audience, I think. Yeah,
and setting is an interesting thing to look at as well with the Holmes or Conan Doyle stories, because a lot of them are based in London, in Victorian London, but a lot of them are based in the deserted countryside in the home counties, like in Hampshire and Surrey.
And often these very big, echoey mansions as well.
Of course, absolutely. Well, we've got no trailer this week, so we'll get straight into it. So, Sherlock Holmes, The Solitary Cyclist, first aired on ITV on the 15th of May 1984, starring Jeremy Brett, David Burke and Barbara Wilshire, directed by Paul Annett. The synopsis we have is: a strange man on a bicycle follows a young music teacher as she cycles on a lonely road to and from the city. We've got the setting being set again in 221B Baker Street, and our lead character here is a character by the name of Violet Smith, played by Barbara Wilshire. Like every episode, she is the visitor to Holmes in London.
And like many of those visitors, she's a damsel in distress character. He can't resist helping a damsel in distress.
I wouldn't say she's in complete distress. I mean, she's a very sophisticated lady, and she's kind of holding it together, isn't she?
Oh, but she does kind of beg him for help.
I've seen much more kind of extreme ones.
Well, she's no Helen Stoner, but...
Who's Helen Stoner?
The one in The Speckled Band.
Oh, right.
Well, she turns up. She's going grey. She's pale. She's shaking. Yeah.
So the speckled band is one you're familiar with from teaching in school?
Yeah, it's the one I know the best.
Yeah.
Okay. That and maybe like the Red-Headed League.
Yeah.
And Scandal and Bohemia.
Okay.
With Irene Adler, who is the complete opposite to any of those women I've just said.
So Violet Smith, she explains to Holmes and Watson her background and the fact that she has been recently hired as a music teacher, which is her speciality and her profession, to teach piano to the daughter of a man called Carruthers.
Yeah, so we then get like a flashback to when she was
approached
by him and his kind of associate, and Woodley.
Mr. Woodley, yes.
And she's told that she'll be paid very, very well, and that she would need to come and kind of stay in the house Monday to Friday, and then she can go home at the weekends. So she cycles to and from the station in Farnham because it's the house is like 6 miles out.
Yeah.
So on a Monday and on a Saturday she cycles.
Yeah.
Out and in again. But she kind of paints this quite confusing story, I guess, for Holmes, because she doesn't start with what the problem is. She says how idyllic it was at first when she started working there. It worked out really well. She could go home to her mother at weekends, but she was paid very well. She really enjoyed teaching his 10-year-old daughter. Mm-hmm. So he was a recent widower.
Yeah.
And so it seemed like she had quite a good relationship with him as well. Like he was a good employer. They would have dinner together.
That's great. But what I had found confusing a little bit was the relationship between Mr. Woodley and Carruthers. Because when Violet is staying in the house of Carruthers and they're having dinner together in this big mansion, after a few weeks, so we're told, Woodley turns up, doesn't he, and starts crowding in on their respectful relationship they have.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting, the characterization of Woodley, because when Violet first meets him, you know, like he's kissing her hand, and I think you can immediately see she's quite uncomfortable by how
he's very touchy-feely, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's also, you know, he's quite slimy.
Yeah.
Like he's got this kind of grin about him, and he gets too close. And then we see that that kind of peace is shattered and broken when she's having dinner with Carruthers and Woodley. Something calls Carruthers out of the room.
I think he possibly gets a phone call, so he's gonna.
Or someone turns up on the doorstep, I think they say.
Mm.
But I don't know if they ever really explain what that was. But he leaves the room and leaves Violet with Woodley, and this is when Woodley essentially like pushes himself on her.
Well, he closes the door, and you immediately, I think anyone, even on a first-time watch, will kind of get an instinct for what is going to happen, or what he's going to try to do.
I feel like this whole episode is really interesting from not only like a perspective of an 80s audience watching this, but as a 2020 audience.
Yeah.
It feels like very, very contemporary in a way, that feeling like you're trapped in a space, especially like with a man, and you're like suddenly hyper aware of your own vulnerability, especially like men you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I can think of like being on a train carriage like late at night, and like men sitting like as close as they can to you, and it's like you've got the whole carriage free.
It's a kind of helpless feeling that a woman would get in that kind of situation. And when someone like Mr. Woodley, a kind of 6'4", 6'5", big brute of a guy, closes the door, she realizes instantly that if anything happens here, she can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And that almost transpires because he does come onto her in this scene, and she's made to feel very uncomfortable, and she does her best to push him away. Carruthers comes in kind of right at the last moment, and before anything unseemly happens, and Woodley strikes Carruthers, doesn't he? And Carruthers gives him his marching orders and tells him to get out of the house. But we don't know what the actual result will be in that. Like, we don't know if that's the end of their professional association or what.
Yeah. So Carruthers promises Violet that that Woodley will never step foot in the house again.
Yeah.
And kind of begs her to stay and keep working for him with the promise that Woodley will never come back.
Yeah. And what I find interesting from Holmes and Watson's perspective is, and it's a common theme throughout many of the episodes, particularly in the Jeremy Brett ones, is that Holmes is very, very keen to not show any obvious enthusiasm for the case to the person who's approached him. So he is obviously very concerned for Violet Smith's welfare. He says that, he acknowledges that to Watson straight away, but he's keen not to tell Violet that. He's keen to emphasise that he's very busy. It may not be his priority.
I think that's a difference from the book, because I always get the impression from Sherlock in the books, and maybe this is also from like the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock, is that he loves the thrill of the chase. Like, he loves the case. He wants to solve it. He wants people to present their problems to him, but it will always be trumped by the most interesting one.
Yeah,
so
I mean that I'm most familiar, other than the Brett ones, with the classic Basil Rathbone films from the 40s, and they are, like you're saying, he gets engrossed in a case, and that pretty much overtakes anything he was previously working on. Whereas this one, I think Jeremy Brett is far more reserved in the enthusiasm he shows to the potential client that he has.
Yeah. So basically, they're saying, well, I'm sorry you were in that situation, but that's not really a case. And then she gets desperate and she says, actually, no, like, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And she says, every Monday when I come back from London and every Saturday when I leave for London, I cycle the 6-mile distance from the house to the train station. And when I am cycling down this path of the particular area with the wooded trees on one side and the kind of grassy field on the other side, I am followed by a man on a bicycle. Repeatedly. Like, every time I go down this path, I'm followed by the same man who knows the times of the day that I'll be there.
And it is a pure element of just stalking. There's no kind of impression that he will force himself on her or gain on her in any way. He's just simply following her.
I mean, we have seen glimpses of like a pistol, him loading a pistol in the bushes.
But Violet hasn't seen that.
No. We've seen that. And she starts trying to like test him, doesn't she? So she'll slow down and he'll slow down. She'll stop, he'll stop. She tries to kind of
and because
hide round corners and see if she can kind of pounce on him.
And because the male stalker cyclist has a point in the pathway where he's waiting for her.
Yeah.
So he obviously knows the lay of the land, and that's the point where we see him load the revolver. So it's like he's got the whole geography of the area, and he knows exactly what he's doing, whoever this guy is.
Yeah.
And it's obviously leaving her very uncomfortable, and this is the main reason why she is so scared. And it's the thing, on her initial visit to Holmes and Watson, this is what she had been holding back in saying. And it's not really until that she acknowledges this that Holmes and Watson are
intrigued
into what's actually happening here. So Holmes sends Watson down to the countryside, doesn't he?
Yeah. He goes as well.
On like a recce.
He goes as well, because that's when he ends up in the pub.
Yeah, I think they go there separate. No, that's before. Yeah, so Watson's the first one to go, and he finds a spot in the forest to watch what's happening. And he sees exactly what's been described by Violet. Violet going about her business and being stalked.
This is when Violet like turns the whole bike around and starts cycling back towards him.
Yeah, that was bizarre, wasn't it?
And he panics and does the same thing.
And he's just being followed with her behind. And you think, is he going to look behind and see what's going on? It's a strange scene. And then she loses him, doesn't she? When they go over a railway bridge.
Yeah. So she turns around, goes back. He follows her again. So I think Watson, and then that's when the bearded cyclist goes off through the gates of the house.
Yeah.
And that's Watson kind of follows him, but then sees is it like a sign or something on the floor, and he thinks he's kind of got a lead to antique shop in London, which Sherlock's very critical of him of. I didn't really get that bit.
No, what that is, I think it's a sign that shows where the property was purchased, I think, from the estate agents,
Yeah.
which gives them the lead of the estate agent in London, or the firm, and that enables them to obtain the identity of the house, who owns that house, and it's a guy called Williamson, who at that point they had no prior knowledge of.
Oh, okay. So why is Sherlock so angry at Watson?
I think Holmes is playing with Watson a bit.
Oh.
I think it's a running gag that he's keeping Watson on his toes. You know.
Oh, okay. I didn't pick up on that.
I think it's
if it's a running gag, then maybe that makes more sense.
Well,
then.
I think it's a thing of an insight into their relationship. He's constantly teasing Watson about his thirst for knowledge and how it doesn't come so naturally to him like it does with Holmes.
Yeah.
But I think there's a great smile on Jeremy Brett's face when he's criticising him. So then Holmes does go to the countryside himself, doesn't he?
He goes to this pub or this inn that's nearby, and he narrowly misses the introduction of a new character who's drunkenly getting up onto a horse.
Who we don't know who this is at this point.
But I think our first impression of him is that he fits the physical description of the Solitary Cyclist because he's bearded.
Yeah.
He's, I'd say, a little bit older than middle-aged, but kind of has that temperamental behaviour because he's drunk. So I think typical kind of Conan Doyle red herring is to introduce someone who could be the culprit.
And I think it's also that this is someone who Violet hasn't described to us, or we haven't been made aware of who this person is. So we're expecting at this point that the stalker is someone that Violet doesn't know. So we automatically think that this guy could be the person who's doing this.
And I think because he has the beard and that's one of the only kind of physical traits that we know the Solitary Cyclist has, our assumption is maybe, okay, well, he maybe fits the description. Sherlock then goes into the pub.
Dressed in that classic attire he wears in all the
funny cap
illustrations.
I don't know what the name is of that style of cap. A deer stalker. A fore and aft cap. Specific style was originally designed for Victorian hunters. So I guess that's kind of plays into it in that he's hunting down the culprit. So that kind of plays into it. And also he only wears it when he's in the country. Yeah,
but I think it is typical of the illustrations that went with Conan Doyle's stories. This was one of the most common looks that Holmes had. So he goes into this public house and gets talking to the bartender about the activity at the house of Charlington
or something like that.
Yeah, and the barman is very kind of, he's a bit elusive, but he doesn't want to land himself in trouble, get involved with gossip, but he does give away that there is suspicious activity there with certain male characters around the place.
Is that when he talks about the clergyman?
Yes, the clergyman
having been kind of dropped by I can't remember what the phrasing is. It's like something like dropped by the cloth or something like that. Like he's no longer...
He's been decloths, I think, is the word.
Declothed.
I think
that does not sound right.
It may not be the technical term for it, but I think that's what he's been stripped of his authority for whatever scandal.
Because he's a drunk.
Can only assume. Probably because he's drunk, but he could have been involved with anything else.
Yeah.
You know?
He's dodgy.
But he's obviously a local regular in the public house, as is Mr. Woodley, who is sat down there in earshot, who we hadn't seen at first, and we assumed that Holmes didn't know he was behind him. And then we get this wonderful physical skirmish that turns into a real fight.
I think this is why, I was thinking when we were watching it was like Sherlock is an interesting character because he isn't just one thing, and I think the different episodes and different stories tap into the different facets of his character. So we see the drugs, we see his intelligence, we see his interest. He's like really good at playing violin. We see, but like not always all at the same time. So they drop different bits into different stories.
But a lot of these hobbies are there for like almost therapy for Holmes. They're like to help him think and to help him kind of manage his brain almost. Like violin is a form of therapy for him, undoubtedly, and the element of cocaine taking is very much a way of really battling his inner demons.
The fighting side of the character of Sherlock Holmes isn't something I've seen in the Benedict Cumberbatch one from memory, but it is one that I've seen in the Robert Downey Jr. one.
Yeah, but that's, I think, maybe some of Guy Ritchie's influence there, surely.
Well, yeah, definitely. But that's because Guy Ritchie wants you pick and choose what you want to tap into, don't you, in terms of the character? So he clearly, being Guy Ritchie, was like, oh, violence, right, tap into that bit. So that's why we get a lot of the violent fighting coming through. He's like a street fighter in the Robert Downey Jr. one.
Yeah, this is something we're not going to see on a regular basis at all. I can only think of one or two occasions where Jeremy Brett, Sherlock Holmes, gets in physical fights in this way. But it is a very rare occurrence, which makes it stand out as very memorable. And Holmes comes out on top.
He does.
Yeah.
It's a funny fight scene, though. It
is.
With his, like, rolling
and it's also
punches.
His moving feet.
He's, like, dancing. It's
like a dance. It's like a choreographed swing of the feet.
It did remind me of the, I said it when we were watching it, I said it reminds me of the scene in Kingsman with Colin Firth when he locks the door in the pub and he goes, "Manners maketh man." I was like, this is Jeremy Brett's version of that.
So then we're told, and we see a brief scene with another evening at dinner, where Carruthers is about to profess his love to Violet.
Yeah.
And we had already been told when Violet introduced herself to Holmes that she is already engaged to someone else, but she is clearly a woman of demand.
But we don't see her accept or deny that. But then she does say that she is going to leave his employment on the Saturday, and that she feels a sense of relief. And they think, oh, that will be the end of the stalking then, because if she's leaving Farnham, then the stalker will not be able to find her and she'll be okay. So they think that's the end of it. What is it that makes them realise that they've made a mistake?
So I think that Holmes is starting to get suspicious of Carruthers, isn't he? Because he's starting to realise that, as you said to me before recording, why is a man who has got so much money not have a pony and trap?
Yeah, why does a man who's so wealthy not have horses and carriages, as they would have done in that time period? Because it was said slightly earlier that in order to make her feel safer when she's out, that Carruthers said, oh, I'll buy a pony and trap so that you won't be followed when you're cycling. I think in her letter saying that she's leaving the employment and that the trap will be there on the Saturday to take her to the station with all of her luggage, there's something that kind of rings alarm bells for Sherlock when he hears the word trap.
Yeah. It's a good moment of realization, and it's a turning point when we're about to walk into the climax, but something that could be fatal.
Yeah. So then we have a great kind of like them running through the forest trying to get and intercept.
Because they'd seen Violet being transported across the forest after leaving the employment and the house of Carruthers, and she's on her way to
the station.
I think the moment of realization hits Holmes that she's going to suddenly come into that area of the forest, and that they need to get there quickly. So the only way they can get there and to be there in time, or to have a chance, is to run and leg it. Yeah,
but they're too late, aren't they? Because they intercept an empty carriage,
and he gets Watson to hold the horse.
Stop that horse!
Yes.
I don't know why he kind of like hugs it, but
I think it's to calm it down.
Yeah, I know, but he kind of like throws himself, like almost like he's trying to climb on it.
Yeah, it gives Watson all the hard jobs to do. So they turn around and they find that point in the lane where there is that sign. Watson had earlier spotted that sign, and that they can. I mean, that's where they'd first seen the horse, so they can see that that's where something had happened.
Well, they see that there's been some sort of like struggle, so then they go into the woods, but actually that's when the guy turns up in full.
Watson hears him.
The guy on the bike turns up.
The guy on the bike turns up, and he has his revolver primed because he's suspicious of Holmes and Watson, and he doesn't know who they are. They, as the three of them, stumble on a young
the groom, the
The
guy who'd been
groom,
driving the carriage, he's been
He's been-
thrown off and hit in the head.
and
So he's bleeding.
he's injured. Yeah, Watson's concerned by him, but then they hear Violet screams in the forest.
I think this is an interesting bit of the story because we anticipate that the guy on the bike, when he turns up, is going to be violent and attack them. But all he's talking about is how concerned he is about Violet.
Yeah, this is the twist, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So then they go further into the woods. They follow the scream.
Yep.
Are we going to talk about this next bit?
I think so. I think it's not worth holding back on this. I mean, anyone who is familiar with the story, they will already know. And I don't think it spoils your viewing of it.
Okay.
Yeah, and so they kind of see this chapel, don't they?
Well, it's like a pagoda or something.
Yeah, outdoor pagoda. And there's clearly a forced marriage being taken place because Violet is gagged and being held by Woodley. And we get this man, Williamson, with his clergy overalls on.
Overalls? Dress. Make him sound like an electrician or something.
So what did you think of this final scene?
No, it was good. I mean, it's stressful because you're hoping that they're not going to get to the end of the...
Well, and they do.
Which they do.
He does pronounce them man and wife, but we don't know what this really means.
Oh, there was that great line from... Carruthers, who was revealed to be the man on the bike.
Yeah.
When he takes off his stuck-on beard and sunglasses. When he takes it all off and reveals himself, and Woodley goes, "Meet my..." I can't remember the line. It's something like "meet my wife" or something like that, or "I am her husband," and then he goes, "No, you're her widow," and then he shoots him.
That's right. Yeah, it's a good moment.
I like that line. It was a good line.
Very well delivered by John Castle. Very thespian. Great actor.
Yeah. So in the chaos and everything, they all end up going back to the house, dragging an injured Woodley with them to kind of figure out, classic Sherlock interrogation as to what's happened.
Yeah, and we get the backstory as to what happened, and it had basically transpired that the three of them had originally planned some of what eventually occurred, in that they were essentially male gold diggers, really, weren't they? They had come to try and obtain Violet's father's money.
Yeah.
From South Africa. But then things changed for Carruthers because he obviously fell in love with Violet.
Yeah.
And was disgusted by the way that Woodley was acting.
And so what he started doing was following her because he knew that there was going to be that she was going to be abducted at some point. So he starts following her on the bike to try and protect her on that stretch of land. That's why he never followed her beyond that bridge over the railway. And it was only ever through that bit of the woodland because he knew that's where the plan was to at some point intercept her.
Right. But what happens is, with the result of Violet supposedly being married to Woodley, Williamson is very adamant that that is a legitimate thing and it stands in the name of the law now. But Holmes is kind of settling Carruthers' fears, in the sense of he's saying that Williamson has been completely stripped of his authority. So this is not a legitimate marriage by law.
Yeah. And I think the final kind of uncomfortable admission is that Sherlock asked Carruthers, how was it decided who was going to marry her? Why didn't you volunteer to marry her in the first place if you were in love with her?
And Carruthers says he's almost ashamed to admit it.
Yeah, he says, I'm ashamed to admit it, but we played a game of cards for her. And assuming he lost. Yeah,
so it's obvious that Carruthers has come from this kind of seedy, low level of criminals in South Africa. But, I mean, it's ultimately clear that he's a decent man. This is what kind of transpires with Holmes. I think we're told in the final scene that Holmes had testified for Carruthers.
Yeah.
To the law, and that reduced his sentence to 6 months.
I don't really know what his sentence was for.
Well, probably to conspire.
Conspiring, kidnapping,
abduction, and
forced marriage.
He's definitely wrapped up in the original plans, and the other two men would testify to that,
Yeah.
even if it's just out of plain spite.
Yeah.
And that's it really. I mean, we get a final kind of light comical scene with the original science experiment that Holmes was trying to conduct going wrong in the flat going into smoke,
Yeah.
and then having to open the window for fresh air. But overall, you enjoyed it.
No, yeah,
compared
I did
to the
enjoy it.
Dancing Men.
Yeah, I thought it was very entertaining.
And I think you've got a feel now for the general kind of formula in the Brett episodes of Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a bit about the trivia that I could find for this one. So, The Adventure of the Solitary Cyclist was written as one of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's short stories that made up The Return of Sherlock Holmes that was released in 1905. In the first series, broadcast by Granada Television in 1984, this was actually the first episode the crew and production team filmed, despite this actually being the fourth episode that was aired during the series. Then it came after A Scandal in Bohemia, which was the first one, The Dancing Men, the second, which we covered, and then The Naval Treaty.
Mm-hmm.
And The Naval Treaty is a good episode as well, I would say. Granada Studios in Manchester was used for most of the interior filming, but Adlington Hall in Cheshire was the predominant filming for the mansion. And although the episode was supposed to be set in Farnham, in Surrey, not far from us, much of the outdoor filming was in the Cheshire countryside.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the performances and the cast. So it's the second appearance, obviously, for Jeremy Brett and David Burke on the podcast. How did you think their performances compared?
What I do appreciate about this series, and I think we said this in the last episode we did of The Dancing Men, is that maybe I didn't see so much in that first episode, but did hear is the characterization of Watson, because I think more so in this episode, he's given time to, like, he's deducing, and he is being the first on the scene, and he's caring for people using his medical skills. And so I appreciate that in this episode, that, or in this series as well, that we see more of that kind of performance from David Burke as Watson. It's an endearing performance of this character. And it was good to see the different facets of Sherlock's character as well being explored more with the fighting and everything like that with Jeremy Brett as well.
Yeah, I mean, Brett is really in his element in these early episodes, I think. I think his performance is really outstanding and really, really getting into the eccentricities of Holmes. And he was very method about it, as we mentioned on the Dancing Men episode. But I think David Burke performs Watson as such a warm-hearted and endearing and empathetic Watson, to the clients that come his way, particularly to the damsel in distress. I mean, he's very respectful to women, and he is a real gentleman. But very poignant from David Burke's perspective, because since we did The Dancing Men, we heard the sad news that he'd passed away.
Yeah,
at the age of 91. So he had a great life, and he has a real CV behind him, as we mentioned on the last episode. A big theatrical career on stage and in TV, and in the odd film as well. But we mentioned he was he has a small part in The Woman in Black when we cover that. So
well, that's because I always think of Woman in Black when I think of Pony and Traps.
Exactly, yeah. So there is a link there. Absolutely.
It was tenuous, but yeah.
It's a tenuous link, but we're all about that. Barbara Wilshire as Violet Smith, and she has a dominant role in this. She's very much in almost every scene.
I thought she was really good.
Yeah.
I preferred her to the performance of the woman in
the American
dancing
actress. Yeah.
I bought into this more.
Yeah, I kind of really bought into the fear in her more, and how she was a proud woman, a young woman, and she has her passions, but she is trying to maintain face, but there is this underlying element of genuine fear within her. Yeah,
and I think it's that she knows she's not been attacked by this guy on the bike, so she almost feels like almost a bit silly about it, perhaps. But ultimately, like, it's so unnerving and strange that she feels so uncomfortable by it. And I think that there's a kind of there's a realism in that, and I respected that in the performance of the character.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a very impressive performance. And one of the real elements, I think, why this episode is a standout in this, because a lot of it is down to her performance, and this setting and this theme behind the stalking is integral to what's happening to Violet
Mm.
behind her. And it's really well played by Barbara Wilshire. Interestingly, there's a South African link because she was South African born, but she was a British actress who predominantly had a TV career. I don't think I've seen her in anything else, but she did appear in EastEnders, The Bill, Doctors, and a very underrated early 90s police show, which I have seen quite a lot of, is called Between the Lines, and she was in that as well. And I believe she's still with us. Yeah, she's 66 now. Next is John Castle as Carruthers. What did you think of this, firstly?
Oh, I think it's quite it's tricky because I think it's quite an endearing performance in some ways.
I think it becomes that, but it's very kind of mysterious in the early part, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think there's a romanticism, I guess, involved. Maybe it comes from like classic kind of Jane Eyre vibes of like older man and like governess.
Yeah, because
there is a classic trope.
There is an unmistakable age gap between them as well.
But he's a nice looking guy.
Absolutely.
And so I kind of found him quite endearing. And I think the fact that he's trying to, he's obviously made huge mistakes, but the fact that he's trying to kind of protect her because he didn't anticipate falling in love with her, I think there's an endearing, like, you don't want him to get years and years in prison, especially because he's got a daughter as well. And he has tried to undo what he started.
Clearly he's just fallen in with a bad crowd, and he's attached himself to this plan that is unsavoury. But I think the biggest fault you can lay at Carruthers is the stalking and how much he's kind of exacerbating the whole problem.
Yeah.
By doing that. And I don't think it's that thing of putting yourself in the woman's shoes. Like, how is that making her feel?
Yeah.
And I think that's Carruthers' main kind of fault, really, isn't it? But he does become very endearing when you get the revelation towards the end and the heartbreak.
Yeah.
But John Castle, a great British actor, I would say, who emerged in the 60s and again went from stage to screen. And big films at the time like Blow Up, the Antonini film, which I really don't rate at all. The Lion in Winter with Katharine Hepburn as well. But then he really went into top quality British drama on TV from the 70s onwards in Miss Marple, Tales of the Unexpected, and Poirot as well. So we may see him again in future. But he is a very good actor.
He's aged well.
He has aged well, yeah. He's a good-looking older bloke. We have Michael Siberry as Woodley. Very creepy.
Yeah, he's very creepy. I couldn't get his accent at first. I know you thought it was quite a good accent.
I thought it was a very good South African accent and probably one of the hardest accents to master.
I thought it sounded Cockney in places.
Well, apparently the actor himself is Australian.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, isn't it? But a good performance overall.
Yeah, very creepy.
Very creepy.
Very slimy.
Very creepy and slimy, absolutely. Yeah, he has an interesting CV. He really kind of emerged in the 80s in TV on shows like Jeeves and Wooster. But he's still been acting in big TV shows recently as an older actor in Severance, Boardwalk Empire. And he only got 6 appearances film-wise in his career, but one of them was in the Michael Keaton film Birdman, the Oscar winner. So if you ever cover that, we'll see him again.
Interesting.
Yeah. Lastly, a small performance I just want to mention because she is a recurring character is Rosalie Williams as Mrs. Hudson. And I don't think she was in The Dancing Men. I don't think she happened to be in that one, but she is in most of these episodes.
Right.
As the housekeeper. She appeared as Mrs. Hudson in 26 episodes across the series for 10 years, after having a career in British television as a younger woman on shows like Coronation Street.
She's on Corrie.
Yeah, I think back in the day, probably like in the early years of Corrie.
Yeah.
The director, Paul Annett, wasn't the director behind The Dancing Men, so it's the first time for him. He was a British director who had done 3 feature films by this point, but most of his work was in TV across the 80s and 90s on shows like Poldark.
The original Poldark. The
original one, yeah. Grange Hill, Secret Army, which was a great show in the late 70s, and Emmerdale as well. In total, he did 3 episodes of the Jeremy Brett series.
Yeah.
So what was your final rating is?
Well, I gave, as a recall of Dancing Men, I think I gave that 3.25. I gave this 3.75. I thought that it was very entertaining. It had that kind of classic damsel in distress, but with an edge character. I enjoyed the kind of the concept of the kind of creepy stalker, and the fight scene. I like the scenes set in the forest the most with the cycling. I think it's very eerie and it taps into kind of the universal female experience, of kind of feeling isolated and vulnerable in those kinds of situations. And I think it's all kind of underpinned by a very effective, that piano score in the background. And I just said it was good to see Watson's character evolve into something beyond kind of the bumbling idiot of other adaptations. So yeah, 3.75.
Well, it's a marked improvement from you because, as you say, you've gone from 3.25 to 3.75. So it bodes well because I do want to do the final problem, which if anyone knows about anything with Sherlock Holmes, they'll know which one that is. And I think we've got to do Hound of the Baskervilles as well.
Yeah.
So it bodes well. I've given it 4, which was the same score as The Dancing Men, but I think it's another really strong adaptation of the short stories early in the series.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, unsettling and unnerving, I think, is the right way to describe the atmosphere in this one. Very much marked by the piano score, as we mentioned. David Burke and Jeremy Brett's chemistry really shines through, even more so in this episode, I would say. And I love that fight scene. I think it's very memorable, and it's the only element, I think, where there's a slight comical edge that creeps in.
Yeah.
Which is very rare in this whole series. Well, I enjoyed that. Coming back and talking over the series. Let's take a quick break and we'll be back with your next selection is. Right, it's that time of the show again where you tease and give clues to myself and the listeners as what you'll be next choosing for us.
I'm so excited to tease you this one because I don't think you are going to expect it. And I think even telling you what decade it's from is going to throw you.
Okay, well, let's start with that then.
We're going to the 50s.
Oh, one of my favourite eras.
I know.
So are we talking British? Are we talking American, Hollywood, or are we going foreign?
Foreign.
Ooh.
You weren't expecting that.
Is it French by any chance?
It is French.
Oh, I've got a funny sneaking suspicion it might be 400 Blows.
It's not 400 Blows, but very close.
Wow. Is it one you've seen?
It's not one I've seen, and it's not one you've seen.
Oh, I'm even more intrigued then. But it is French.
It is French.
I think maybe we'll have to go to the actors. I wonder if we've seen any of the actors before, or directors.
Emmanuelle Riva.
From a more? Yeah, as a younger actress.
Young.
Oh, I can't suddenly think about what she was in earlier in her career. Oh, I can actually. Wasn't she in Hiroshima Mon Amour?
We're watching Hiroshima Mon Amour.
Wow. That's a big one.
I know.
Yeah.
It's only an hour and a half. But the reason I'm kind of very aware of it is because it's an adaptation of Marguerite Duras, one of her books, which I was familiar with working in libraries. So yeah, I'm very excited to see this because it's Alain. How do you say it?
Alain Delon?
No, Alain Resnais, the director.
Ah, yes. Well, we're going highbrow again on the podcast.
Yeah, so it was kind of, I think it's got quite an interesting structure. I think it's got a kind of non-linear structure element to it. I think we might see that kind of the passion that we get in like In the Mood for Love and things like that, but also perhaps kind of that intense kind of period of time that we see in like other films like Past Lives and things like that.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued. I mean, I've seen a few snippets of the cinematography, and I think it's that beautiful black and white cinematography. Colorization, yeah, that was so prevalent in some of the best French New Wave films. I can't think of, was this 1959?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's a real golden era for the beginning of the French New Wave.
Yeah.
Very intrigued. I don't really know the basis of the storyline or plot, which I'm even more kind of intrigued by about. So
yeah,
that would be brilliant. And it was very unexpected. I thought we were going to get a bit of a summer romantic comedy or something.
Always the tone of surprise.
Absolutely. Well, that'll be our next episode, Hiroshima Mon Amour. We'll leave it there. So thank you, Izzy. We've been Couple Indemnity, and you can find us on all good podcast platforms, and you can email us with any feedback or recommendations at coupleindemnity@gmail.com. We are available at Couple Indemnity on X, Blue Sky, and YouTube, of course, as well. So thank you for joining me today, Izzy.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys next week for Hiroshima Mon Amour.
Bye, guys.
See you then.